you're on a bloody competition bike. But if this is a competition bike that can't make it through a quote competition race, and they were like, oh look, we made the lightest pegs ever because you're on the heaviest bike ever. What's going on, people? It's time to give you a little bit of an update of some of the things I've learned about the Stark Varg. So these are expensive bikes and a lot of people have asked a lot of questions about them. Let me preface this by saying I'm not watching other people's reviews of this bike. I have no idea what other people are saying about this bike. I'm just gonna tell you some things that I've seen about the bike. There's some things that I just don't see it working full like long term with this. And there's some other things about this bike that I think are absolutely incredible. And there's some really, really cool things for them to build on here. This isn't a full review, but I've just had so many people asking, so I thought I would just do this. So I'm gonna tell you some of the things that are bad. Interesting, range. We've always talked about range. So I thought it was gonna be better at the track than it is on the trails. And I'm actually not sure that's even the case. I think it might have better range on the trails than it does on the track. I've done a few trail rides and I feel like I can get anywhere between 25 to 40 miles, just kind of depending on what the scenarios are. But I took this to the track. Now, granted, I'm not even a good track rider. I'm riding this thing at 45 horsepower. I barely ride tracks. Everybody is faster than me. Everybody is better than me. And yet I started at 100% when I took it to the track. I'm at 45 horsepower. I'm not going fast, and I only got 3 10 to 12 minute sessions on the track and I was down to 7%. There was one time specifically where I started at 30%, rode for 10 minutes, and I was cleared down to 7%. And then I couldn't go back out. So I basically rode the bike somewhere between 30 to 35 minutes on the track at my slow pace, and I'd used 93% of the battery. So my question is, who is this bike for? If it's a competition motocross bike, but a guy who doesn't even know what he's doing, riding at 45 horsepower on an 80 horsepower bike, riding at 45 horsepower, and I can only get just a little bit over 30 minutes and I'm down to 7% battery. That means if you were a good rider, pushing the bike at all, it would last between 10 to 20, maybe 25 minutes tops. That's not even enough to finish a 30-minute moto. So if it's a competition bike that can't finish a 30-minute moto, who the hell is it for? Honestly, let's be real. Hey, real quick, if you want these videos to continue, the best way to do it is to use the affiliate link for Rocky Mountain ATV right down here. It's in the video description of all my YouTube videos, and it's on dirtbikechannel.com. You go to dirtbikechannel.com and you click on the thing that says Shop Rocky Mountain ATV, and then you buy anything they sell, and it helps to support these videos. And you could probably end up, a lot of people have won bikes from me just by clicking those links, I'm just saying. So use the links to Rocky Mountain ATV to support Dirt Bike Channel. You might even win a bike, especially this summer. Stay tuned for that. Other things, the kickstand is dumb. So they got this kickstand set up. Sherco does this a little bit too, where it has this cam thing here, so the kickstand will automatically come up if there's no weight on it. I think that's dumb. Now you can modify this so it doesn't do that. But then also the bike leans over way too far over. It's leaning so far over. So there's so much weight on the bike. If that's not on hard, like a board or a massive rock or just something, it'll push that thing right into the ground and the bike will tip over. You cannot use that kickstand on grass because it'll push it right into the ground. It's dumb. It leans way too far over and the bike is heavy. We'll get to that in a second. So the kickstand is an epic fail. Epic fail, Stark. You do all this research and the bike can't even stand up on its own. Now, okay, it's a moto bike, so whatever. Maybe that wasn't your primary intention, but with all the things you've done, you put a kickstand on it that's essentially useless because it won't hold itself up because it tips over too far. That's dumb. Here's another thing. Epic fail, Stark. This cord to charge your bike, so that your charger is built into the stand down here. This cord is too short. The bike is centered on the stand, and all you had to do is give us an extra 6 inches of this cord. It's so tight, I can barely get it to fit in there. This is now cranking my cord right here. It's cranking down here, and it's so hard to get out. So in and out. So what you end up doing is you end up moving the bike all the way over on the stand to get it all the way over on the edge. So now it's sticking out way far over on the other side and it's on the edge. And now you have just enough where it's still too tight. This is still way too tight. Just give us an extra 6 inches. What in the heck? What are you doing? Why is this cord so freaking short? So most of the time, I don't even put it on the stand. I just have the stand over on the side, flipped on its side, and then it gives me a little bit more leeway with this charge cord. That's stupid, guys. Absolutely stupid. It feels heavy. When you're it's 265 pounds. When you're riding the bike, it doesn't feel heavy. It feels stable. It feels like an amazing dirt bike most of the time when you're riding it. But when you go to pick it up, you're like, dang, this is heavy. I notice it when I'm picking it on and off stands and when I'm washing the bike. It's 10 pounds, it's about 5 to 10 pounds heavier than the heaviest dirt bike I've ever had at 265 pounds. But when I go to lift it, I'm like, what in the actual? This thing feels heavy. Like I tipped it at the track and I went to lift it and I had to like get back under it. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's something to do with where the weight is distributed. I don't know if it's because weight is higher up than I'm normally used to having because of where the battery is. Maybe on other dirt bikes it's lower down, but even when I'm just lifting from the back, because I usually just grab the bike like this on the rear wheel. This is how I lift it on and off stands, is by doing that. I just stabilize. I'm grabbing mostly with the tire here. Even doing that, it's freaking heavy. And I don't know why it feels so heavy when you're picking it up, but it is heavy. Going along with the weight. So because they knew the bike was heavy, they give you these are the tubes that come in the bike. I don't even know what these are called, and people can like rag on me for not doing my research on this. I've never seen these tubes. This is what came out of the tires. I put tubeless on these things, but this is literally the lightest tube I've ever seen. It's so thin, you could never run this. Like this is, I don't even know what this is, but this is like the lightest, cheapest thing I've ever seen. OEM product, not for sale in aftermarket, made in Austria. But these are the tubes that come in these tires, and it's probably because they're trying to shave weight. This is the lightest, weirdest, cheapest thing I've ever seen. I took them right out because I'm like, that doesn't seem like it would ever work. And it's probably because they knew the bike was heavy, but you already made a heavy bike. Here's another thing, the pegs. They talk about how they're the lightest pegs ever. These pegs I know will break off if you hit them on anything. I haven't hit them on anything yet, but they talk about how they're the lightest ever, but they've just shaved material away from these things. It's nowhere near as beefy as a Honda or Yamaha or a KTM or a Kawasaki or a Sherco or a Gas or any of a Suzuki, any of the other bikes. The reason why pegs have been made beefier is because they break off when you crash or when you go down. These are way too chintzy, way too lightweight. And they were like, oh, look, we made the lightest pegs ever because you're on the heaviest bike ever. I'm saying the bike's already heavy, just give us pegs that aren't gonna break off. There's that. Okay, let's move into some things that I think are absolutely amazing with this bike. The forks are great. They're a KYB fork, but they actually did valving on these things that I think are fantastic. With the clickers, which are hard to get to because they're directly under my handlebars, I can take this, I can move those clickers all the way out, speed up the compression, and then it's very compliant for trail riding. Maybe some of the best, I think it probably is the best valved KYB fork, in stock trim that I've ever had. And then I turned those back in and I had a great time at the track. So the forks are absolutely amazing. The bike feels super stable. You know, so that was really great. Other things, the brakes are great. We're doing Brembo brakes. They didn't scrimp on the brakes. The Brembo brakes are as good as any Brembo brake. The braking on this bike is as good as any bike I've ever had. It's top notch. Brembo in the front, Brembo in the rear. I did put the rear foot brake on there, and the brakes are absolutely fantastic. Hill climbs. This one surprised me. This is the best hill climbing bike I've ever been on. With the fact that it's electric, you have all the power that you want at any speed. You're not shifting gears, but you can hear the traction because you can hear the rear wheel. Most of the time on a gas bike, whether it's a 4-stroke or a 2-stroke, if it's a nasty hill, you're in the power and you're just lighting that rear wheel up and you're spinning the rear wheel. With this bike, you don't have to spin the rear wheel, so you just get incredible traction. And sorry, a wheel set fell over here. You get incredible traction because you can hear it. At the moment you start to break loose, you either just roll off the throttle just a teeny bit to maintain traction, or you shift your weight back and you get that traction back. So I'm being much more efficient on any of the hill climbs I've done, and it's kind of staggering. It's crazy. And if you do stop on a hill, you can just kind of slowly start going again, because you don't have to, rev your bike out and then feather the clutch or whatever. Yeah, I wish it had a clutch, because I can't do double blips, I can't do pivot turns, I can't do a lot of these enduro techniques that I want to, but just straight up hill climb, 45 horsepower, this sucker is incredible at climbing hills. And then just like, if you're on single track on steeper areas where it's like steep and loose and whatever, you can just get traction. You don't have to spin the rear wheel, because you can hear it. The bike is not silent by any means, but you can hear it so well. You can hear that. That's the thing that I noticed right off the bat, is you're hearing the rear wheel on a full-size actual dirt bike that has the power to just rip that rear wheel to pieces. But you don't have to do that, because you can hear it. It's a thing. That was something I was very surprised at. Again, and then you're always in the right gear, because there are no gears. So you're just very efficient. And when you're on the trails, it's efficient. When you're on the track, it's efficient, because you're not shifting gears. Although I will say on the track, it's weird, because you're like, you don't have you just have to gauge your speed just by how it looks. You're not like, oh, I take this jump in third gear, half throttle type thing. You don't have that, because there are no gears. So I found myself coming up short a lot on a couple jumps at the track, short or long. It was harder for me to gauge. And again, I'm not a moto guy. So if you're a moto guy, you'd probably be better at this, but I found myself going short on certain jumps and going long on other jumps, because I don't have the like, hey, I need to be in second gear here, or I need to be in third gear here, or whatever. You don't have that gauge, but ultimately you'd get used to that with time. So yeah, initial, like first, it's a real dirt bike, and this feels like a real dirt bike, and it's the first electric bike I've been on where I'm like, you're on a bloody competition bike. But if this is a competition bike that can't make it through a quote competition race, and I don't race, but like, you get my point. What are you making a bike for? If it's a competition motocross bike that can't make it through a competition motocross event because it doesn't have enough power, it doesn't hold enough power, store enough power, who's it for? Anyway, just some thoughts. If you want to support these videos, use the link right down here to Rocky Mountain ATV. I'll probably do a sweepstakes where you can enter to win this bike, and it'll be mostly off the Rocky Mountain ATV links. So if you're watching this video probably in the month of June through July, click the link right down here. I know I'm releasing this video in probably May or April or something, but get used to using my links for Rocky Mountain ATV down in the video description, because people are winning dirt bikes from me just by using those links, and it also helps to do all this stuff to support these videos. So thank you so much. I'll have more on this bike later. If you have questions, email me. It's kyle@dirtbikechannel.com, or you can go to my website, and there is a link to kind of get in touch with me. But the best way to get your parts is through Rocky Mountain ATV using my link. So dirtbikechannel.com, it says shop Rocky Mountain ATV, and then you can buy anything they sell. Okay, that's what I've got for you guys today. Until next time, leave a single track.